All right, in this video, we are going to talk about adding a legend to a QGIS map and some formatting tricks that make it look a little bit nicer, a little bit more nicely integrated into the map, especially with editing raster legends, which always look really bad by default in QGIS. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here to add legend. This button right here adds a new legend to the layout. And I'm just going to drag a legend somewhere on the map where I want it to be. Now, take a look at this terrible monstrosity. So it breaks up our raster into all of these things, which would never ever fit on our map. And also has some other legend items that in some contexts you might want to include. I really like you all to think about what is actually important to include on a legend. In this case, I would look at this legend and say, okay, this is obviously New York State and New York State lakes. I don't need to know that this white line is the boundary here. So maybe I think I'm just gonna want to have a legend showing what is these purple to yellow colors that I'm looking at. So really just the raster data. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, with the legend selected, I can go into my legend properties. Now, right up at the top here, I can determine which map I want my legend to be associated with. In this case, I want it to be map 1, which is my big base map here. And then this is the thing that's that you always want to do if you are all set with your colors and layers and everything. You want to uncheck this auto update button here. Now what this allows us to do is to remove items from this list. So with an item selected, I can click this little button and remove it. I'm going to do that for shoreline, for lakes, for dome trees. And I'm just going to get rid of that Esri satellite. So all that's left is this dome canopy height. Now, I also want to get rid of a whole bunch of these little colors. And I can actually do that by expanding this down. And I'm just going to select like some big chunks at a time, holding down the shift button and then hit minus. And I'm going to do that again here, click minus, until I'm left with hopefully only a few levels here. Maybe I'll just go down. I don't need this these last black ones there. Okay, so that looks way better, right? I've got only a few of these things left in here. That looks really good. These numbers are kind of meaningless, right? Like I don't need to know that this is 13.2052. I really need to know that this one here is 0 and this one here is 32.4. So what I'm going to do is I can double click on these items here and I can change the item text. So I'm going to do 0 space M for 0 meters. Watch how that changes there. I double click on this one. I'm just going to put a single space in. If I try to delete it entirely, it won't work. It needs to have something. And the space will just be sort of empty blank space. I'm going to go through all of these, adding a space. And this one, I'm just going to shorten this up. I'm just going to round for us here to 32.4 space M for 32.4 meters. I want to change this to canopy height, just to make that a little cleaner, a little bit simpler. Okay, so I'm most of the way here now. There are a couple things that I think would look much better with this raster legend in particular. So I'm going to come down. First off, let's mess around with our fonts. Okay, this is overwhelming, right? We've got a lot going on here. I am very averse to having a title for a legend. It should be pretty explanatory that you're looking at a legend, so you don't need it to say legend at the top. However, we do want to be able to modify things like canopy height. If we go to recent fonts, I'm going to use my favorite, my Century Gothic here. and I'm going to use Century Gothic for my legend items. So subgroup is sort of the heading over this. Item labels are going to be the little labels next to each individual symbol here. Great. Okay, I like that now. If we had a whole bunch of items, we could separate them into multiple columns. Like we could split this into 2 columns. We could even split layers like this, but if we had a bunch of items, we could split them into multiple columns to make a more horizontal layout. But we're not going to do that here. We're just going to keep a single column. Just wanted to point that out to y'all. Now, symbol. Okay, this is where we are going to reduce the symbol height just a little bit to squish this in here. We could also make them a little bit less wide, a little bit more square. Let's do this. Let's go 6 and 4. And then this is what I want to do here. I want to uncheck this box. So I don't want to draw a stroke around my roster. And we're going to squish these together in the next setting down here, which is spacing. So there's a lot of options here, a lot of customization possible. You can change how much spacing there is between different groups. Like a different group would be between, if we were including any of the like point or line features, would be increasing the spacing between those. What I want to do is I want to add a little space below that subgroup heading. Watch what happens here. When I increase that space, it's going to increase the space between the heading and the legend items here. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to just reduce the space between these symbols down to about nothing. That looks pretty good now, right? Look at what we've got here. Now we've got sort of a nice little color ramp going from 0 to 32.4. All right, so let's, I want to go back into here, my subgroup heading. I'm going to make that just a little bit bigger than my other stuff. One last thing here. I think this might actually look really nice without a background. But when I uncheck that, oh gosh, I can't see any of my text. So I want to change my text from black to white because I'm on this really dark background. So I'm going to come back up to fonts and font color. We're going to slide that thing down to white. There we go. Now we've got this really nice looking legend right here on the map. Now I know this has become a pretty long video for just making something this simple, but what's really important about this is that there's a lot of work that goes into making deliberate, thoughtful decisions on your maps here. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of clicks to get something that you really want, that's clean, conveys the message, and is sort of synchronous with the rest of your map theme. So just an extra reminder to be thoughtful as you are working on your cartography and your map design. All right, in the next map, we'll add a couple extra features, and that should tie it up for some of our intro to layout tools.